Welcome everyone. This is Susie Scott, and this is your how-to guide for Scott-Trigger's gap analysis. You can download the tool at the AORN website under Toolkits, Prevention of Perioperative Pressure Ulcers/Injury, or at my website, www.scotttriggers.com. Our objectives today are to describe how to complete the gap analysis and look at how we can use that in creating a strategic plan to prevent perioperative pressure injury. Now, the first step in the quality process is to define the problem. This poster is available on my website, and it crosswalks the Six Sigma quality model, DMAIC, Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control, with the components of the new AORN toolkit. The first step is to define the problem or assess the current state. The Scott-Triggers gap analysis template allows you to perform a self-assessment of your environment and the systems that may become barriers to safe patient care. Now, I developed the gap analysis in order to help identify systems issues that can contribute to adverse events in the perioperative setting, primarily pressure injury. And by comparing this current state of processes with your evidence-based practice, you can identify gaps in care that need to be addressed through an action plan. The desired state or goal is to implement and control our practices to reduce patient harm. The gap analysis is the first step in defining what opportunities you have for improvement. Now, Vincent and colleagues described a framework of factors that influence clinical practice and medical error. I currently use this framework when I'm conducting simulated root cause analysis for my graduate medical education residents. You can use this framework to identify any gaps in care. The first step is to download the template from the AORN site and go to the first tab, Gap Analysis. You will need to assemble an interprofessional team from all areas of perioperative practice to complete the assessment. Some methods may include looking at your surgical statistics, review of policies and procedures, any checklists or protocols, chart reviews. You may need to observe practices. It may be necessary to perform a Joint Commission-like tracer for a high-risk surgical patient, perform equipment inventories with input from biomedical or the engineering staff, and complete the form to the best of your ability. Now let's look at some of the key factors listed in the gap analysis. Patient characteristics are really helping you to look and assess the risk in your population. We know that patients who are older and have certain types of surgeries such as cardiac, orthopedic, trauma, transplants, lengthy procedures over 3 hours all increase the risk of pressure injury. Task or process factors includes the availability and use of protocols and clarity of the structure. So do you have standard work? By standard work, I mean step-by-step instructions on how to complete tasks. Do you have a process for risk assessment? Do you use the Braden scale or other tools? Two surgery-specific tools, the Monroe scale and the Scott-Trigger tool, are featured in the new 2017 AORN guidelines. Do you conduct a full-body skin assessment pre-op on all surgical patients? Do you have a nursing care plan and a checklist for specific protocols in place for high-risk individuals? Is it current, evidence-based, and is the practice consistent among all staff? Or do you have workarounds? Next, you want to look at your individual staff members, their skill and expertise. And do they have documented annual competencies for pressure injury prevention and positioning? Management and leadership factors are extremely important. We want to know, do we have top-level buy-in and support for change? Is there a just safety culture, meaning there's a non-punitive response for error? Does leadership promote reporting of incidents and investigation of events through root cause analysis? And do we have protected time for education? Are standards of care approved, and are they comprehensive, current, and clear? These are all management responsibilities. Next, we have the work environment. And for me, the particularly important piece is the equipment. That's the low-hanging fruit. We want to know, has there been standardization of devices, such as high specification OR table pads in every OR suite, a best practice? Do you practice safe patient handling, using lateral transfer devices, offloading the heels during supine position? Do you have the safe positioning devices that you need? And not only do you have access, but do you have enough for your case mix? Are they in good working order? And are the maintenance and upgrades up to date? In your environment, you're also considering your staffing, your skill mix, and your workload, the design of the unit, information technology, and many other factors. Now, team factors really is looking at the communication, both verbal and in writing. Is there a process for handoff communication? Are you comfortable seeking help and communicating concerns in your briefings, your timeout, and your debriefings? Are the handoffs clear, accurate, clinically relevant, and goal-directed? And what does your interprofessional team look like? Does it include the Gemba? Gemba is a Japanese term that means the place where value is created. For me, this is the entire perioperative period. The pre-op nurses, intra-op, post-op nurses, as well as anesthesia, surgery, technicians, quality improvement, risk management, the C-suite, wound ostomy continence nurses, the entire interprofessional team. Institutional context looks at the financial, regulatory, and legal impact. Next, you want to review the gap analysis and with the current best practices to complete the SWOT analysis. This is under tab 2. This is the beginning of your action plan. The SWOT analysis is a useful technique for understanding your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities that are open to you, and threats that you face. Strengths are really what you do well. Maybe you have a very experienced team and a strong committee structure. Weaknesses are factors that contribute to patient risk or the barriers. We sometimes call these the opportunities for improvement, and these can be the base for your action plan. Opportunities are just that. It's a situation or circumstances that make it possible to meet your goals, such as newer innovation or equipment dollars, or free resources like the AORN Toolkit, or utilizing your innovative skills and technology like the electronic medical record to create standard work and processes. Threats are the obstacles that threaten your program, such as fines or non-payment for penalties for hospital-acquired pressure injuries from CMS, litigation, funding issues, and staff turnover. Next, you want to define evidence-based practice, and this has gotten a lot better over the years. I'm very pleased that AORN guidelines for perioperative practice in 2017 will include new evidence-based information in the positioning chapter. I think you'll really enjoy it. We also have OR guidelines from NPUAP. The wound ostomy continence nurses have a fabulous core curriculum book on skin and wound assessments. There's tons of articles now in the literature, and don't forget your manufacturer's instructions for use to make sure that you're utilizing your equipment correctly and safely. The fourth step is taking your SWOT analysis and really drilling down to your current state. You want to look at all those factors that could be potential barriers for care. This is an example from a real-time setting, and there were multiple factors that were identified, including the risk assessment didn't drive the change, their skin assessments were inconsistent, there were excessive wait times, their dressing applications were inconsistent, documentation wasn't where they wanted to be, and their OR mattresses were out of date and needed repair. The next step is to brainstorm to determine what you want your desired state to be. And what I like to do is get a group together and get Post-it notes and have everybody write their ideas on a single Post-it note and start putting it on a whiteboard and really analyzing it. And this was the action plan from the same facility, and it was very, very robust. It contained multiple actions and potential projects. So the action plan included things like using the EMR to drive prevention practices and PDSA cycles with aim statements to improve compliance and skin assessments and other practices, creating processes for long wait times in the pre-op area and equipment upgrades and policy review and on and on. And sometimes it's really difficult to discern what do you need to do first. So it's really important to use tools that help you discern what are the strongest actions and how do I prioritize it. So this model was adapted by Gosby in Human Factors Engineering and really looked at how to reduce risk of human error. So they categorized different actions into strong or intermediate or weak. So weaker actions might include training or policy and procedures. More intermediate actions is utilizing checklists, building in redundancy like your timeout procedures, standardized communication like IPASS or SBAR. And then stronger actions is really changing the architecture, simplifying the process, creating the right thing to do, making the right thing to do the easy thing to do. Things like standardizing your equipment so that you're always practicing prevention and using force function as one of your controls. Another tool that can be used is the impact effort matrix. And this helps you prioritize your action plan. So you take your Post-it notes and you put them in one of the 4 quadrants. You want to really focus on the solutions in the top left. These are your quick wins. These are things that are high impact. They're going to have a high improvement rate, but they're going to be low effort and low cost generally. Now, you may have some of your factors could be in the right upper quadrant, and they would be high impact as well, but they may require more cost or complexity, and so it may require a project. This doesn't mean you don't want to do it. It just may take you a little bit more time. And step 7 is really implementing the action plan. Making sure that you're going to reduce risk. How are you going to measure it? Who's going to be responsible? Who's going to have oversight? How are you going to do your pilot testing, your PDSA cycles? What is your timeline so you stay on track? All those are important factors to consider. And last, you really want to assign accountability to your strategy. We use this strategy developed by Aiello and Leiter in Vision 16 when we conducted our skin integrity summits. So we took all of our actions and we put them in these different categories to address how we would implement them. So under administrative, we knew it was very important that we had the resources that we need for equipment, and we addressed the barriers for nursing actions. We created OR skin bundles to standardize our care and make standard work the easy thing to do. We really worked on our culture and we valued what the customer wanted. We made our events transparent and we reported them and tracked them and studied them. We wanted to make the documentation visible, so we improved our templates and things in the electronic medical records. AORN has toolkit posters that you can use to create awareness, and all of that is important when you're promoting your program. And education is really essential, and there's a lot of information, webinars, and slide decks in the AORN toolkit. And I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I hope it's been helpful to you, and if you have any questions, you can contact me at scotttriggers@gmail.com. And from Memphis, Tennessee, we always say thank you very much.